Welcome to That Don't Sound Right. That Don't Sound Right is a podcast about talking the way we did before the internet, when you couldn't prove anyone right or wrong.
All the expertise was contained in the people involved with the conversation. I'm Peter.
And I'm Cecil. And we hope you enjoy our conversations. And as you listen, if you find yourself silently saying, "That don't sound right," leave us a comment. You're one of us. Enjoy the show. Merry Christmas, Camille.
Merry Christmas, Dad.
So I'm just putting the finishing touches on the podcast.
Well, on Christmas Day, that don't sound right.
Hey, Peter.
Hey, Cecil. How's it going?
It's good.
Hey, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
I was admiring your tree in your living room there.
Hope Santa was good to you.
Well, it's hard to say.
It's a little hard to say. Again, it's funny how podcast time works. So I think for our Christmas episode, which I hope our listeners, we're averaging between 10 and 15 listeners per episode.
Well, it's probably time for us to get an email address for the show.
I thought about that.
So people can give us fan mail and, give us questions.
And ideas. That's right.
And maybe they need to correct some of the stuff. They might say, that don't sound right. And they need to correct this.
They can leave in the comments on the podcast site currently. But an email address would be the next step, I think.
Yeah, probably so. But yeah, I was admiring your Christmas tree. Where'd you get that?
That was at Grouse Family at Ace in the parking lot.
I get my trees there almost every year. Also, I've been there for a long time.
So as you know, they have a contest, or they have a drawing every year that you can enter, or that you can put your name in for. And we won last year the free Christmas tree.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's why our Christmas tree is that big this year. Normally we've been in the $30 to $40 range. Right. This is more of a $60 tree this time.
So did you know? And I think this is true, but someone needs to correct me, that North Carolina is second in the number of Christmas trees produced in the country, second only to Oregon.
Really?
Yeah.
I think I'd heard that.
Did you?
Yeah.
That's pretty remarkable.
At some point in my life, I might have said that don't sound right, but I think you're actually right, off the top of my head.
Well, it's amazing that they keep making them. If you think eventually they'd cut them all down, or they get into the situation where they planted them and they didn't grow fast enough, and now they're without Christmas trees.
Yes.
But driving up the Boone just a couple months ago, I noticed this hillside was full of fully grown Christmas trees,
yes.
And it must have been just a couple years that it was a bare hill.
So I actually worked on a Christmas tree farm when we lived in the mountains.
No kidding.
Just a few days.
All right.
So for a French, and so I know how they do it.
Okay.
I know the inside scoop. So they usually have 7 lots.
Okay.
7 impoundments. And so you got your first year trees, your second year trees, your third year trees, your fourth, your fifth, your sixth, and then the ones you're cutting.
So 7 years is the magic year.
Yeah, I think it was 7. That might not sound right. Somebody might be saying right now, that don't sound right. But I think it was 7 impoundments. And then as you cut that last impoundment, you were replanting the first one. So you replanted it, that became the first year.
I got you.
Yeah.
How many trees are on an impoundment? Like
It depends.
the one you
can
worked?
have,
like the one you worked?
20,000 trees.
Now, I've gone to
That's a lot of land.
I know. I've gone to some places and they've you couldn't cut them down because they were reserving them for wholesale.
Yes.
Like, do you know the difference in the money in doing wholesale versus to the consumer?
The money is better if you can sell it directly to the person.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. But you can't. But then you'd have to have thousands of people up at your farm.
Right.
So they have to do the wholesale, but they're selling them for much less the wholesale.
Yeah.
That's why the growers have. That's why the Grouse family comes down here and sets up in the next parking lot.
Yeah.
The margin's higher.
Have you ever talked to anyone who buys their trees, say in South Carolina or Georgia or Florida? Do you know how much they pay for trees down there?
My brother's in Georgia.
Okay.
He pays a premium.
Like higher than we do?
Yeah.
All right, because I feel like I'm paying a lot for a tree, and
You
I live right in the state. It's coming down the mountain.
You live minutes, and those trees are cut early. Those wholesale trees?
Yeah.
They're early.
Okay.
Like they've been sitting cut for a while.
I would even say that I don't think I get much of a discount if I go up to the farm and cut it myself or have it cut for me on site.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of a price discount if I'm at the
They're pretty
at the
expensive.
site. So it makes me think, Christmas trees, what's the deal? What do you know about the Christmas tree and Christmas?
I vaguely remember like a Europeanish story involving bringing the tree in, maybe possibly associated with some pagan tradition at some point, warding off evil spirits or...
Yeah. That's what I seem to remember is that that the Christians co-opted a pagan holiday where they worship the tree.
Oh, they worship the tree.
They worship the tree. And the Christians took it over and said, we're going to do Christmas, but we're going to change the meaning of it, and we're going to use it for us.
Really? I'm thinking that doesn't sound right.
You were thinking out loud, I could tell.
Yeah. Really, it was really a pagan because it really was a pagan tradition.
That's what I seem to remember growing up.
I agree with you on the pagan thing. I don't remember them worshiping the tree.
Okay,
that almost sounds like a druid. Maybe it's true.
Yeah, we'll have to. Maybe one of our 16 listeners could send us some information, or we could just look it up here at the end of the podcast.
It does seem odd that you cut down a live tree and bring it into the house.
Yes. You know what? Our tradition in our family has been, and it's only a tradition of twice. But the first year my wife and I were married, we went and bought a tree with a root ball.
Oh, the root ball, yeah.
And we brought it into the house.
Yep. And nurtured it.
Decorated it, watered it, put a big sheet around it.
Did it live?
It lived. It was a white pine. And when we moved, it was almost as big as the house.
Oh, wow.
And then it grew bigger than the house several years later. And then several years after that, the owners cut it down.
So we did that. Somebody gave us one the year that Olivia was born. Yes. Yeah. And it was a little one, and we planted it. And I think somebody cut it down.
Oh, a different house.
Different house.
Okay.
This was in Nashville.
All right.
Yeah.
The house that we're living at now, our first Christmas there, we did the same thing. This time we bought a Norwegian pine. Or was it Norwegian spruce? One of those two. It was Norwegian.
Right.
And it was, super small, and then it was no bigger than Jack and Emily at the time, and now it's bigger than all of us. It's probably close to 8 to 10 feet now.
That's cool.
Yeah. So the one idea was that we would cut it down when we're moving.
Right.
When it's like, this is the last year in the house.
Right.
We're cutting it down, and it's going to be our Christmas tree inside. But again, we're going to pull it inside.
Yeah.
What's the deal with that?
Right. I think, maybe we should look it up before the New Year's episode, and we'll give the answer on the New Year's episode.
Excellent. Let's do that.
That might actually become how we format this. Like we'll do the discussion in one podcast, and then give the answer in the second podcast.
We might get some additional listeners.
Yes.
Or we might get fewer.
So I've been listening to other podcasts.
Okay.
There's one that you would like called Daily Driver.
All right.
Called Car Debate.
Okay.
Anyways, but they have a thing in it. They have a thing that is kind of kind of like click and clack with the sign off.
Right.
Eventually, we kind of have to have that, I think.
Well, we'll get something.
Yeah.
We'll get something.
Yeah. All right. Well, I just think at this point we just need to tell everybody Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Have a Merry Christmas. So
To Scott, our number one and original listener, Merry Christmas.
Yes, listener number one. Shout out to you, Scott.
And our listeners should appreciate that we are toiling away for them on a podcast on Christmas.
Yeah, I got to get back because the kids hopefully will be waking up soon. When they became teenagers, they just slept in now.
That's right.
It's not a big deal anymore. Yeah. So this works out pretty good.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.